Hey everybody. I just want to make this video, and it's going to be my opinion about the Fed pausing interest rates. And I'm not a financial advisor, so you know, don't take anything I say literally. It's just my opinion, and do with it with what you will. But take it as an opinion and nothing more than that. Um, so when it comes to the Fed pausing interest rates, I think that there's a lot of people who think that the Fed will continue to raise interest rates. And the idea is that the Fed will raise interest rates two times, okay? The main point is that you want to pause, is that you want to lower inflation because you want to make the cost of living affordable for people. Okay, so with that being said, let's think about just the Maslow's hierarchy of needs because that's how we should look at it. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have things like shelter, food, water, energy, utilities, and just basic necessities you need in order to have a decent quality of life, right? Actualization is one of the very last things. Purpose and beliefs, and yeah, these things are all part of Maslow's hierarchies of needs. And currently, with how the economy has been and how it's going, in order to obtain Maslow's hierarchies of needs, it's becoming harder and harder to the point that, it's not very sustainable. There's a lot of different types of, there's a bunch of different indices that we need to consider. We can always look at the economy and how the GDP is doing or how the health of the economy is doing, but how are people doing, right? Because just because GDP is good doesn't mean that people's well-being is that good. And we see a lot of negative things going on in our world. And it's okay because sometimes you need to be bombarded with so much bad things. And it's kind of like a coiled spring. And I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to have a coiled spring effect where people are beaten down so much emotionally, psychology, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And then we're going to have a pivot and things will get better. You cannot have only good times. And I believe that the government and the people who run this world understand that we cannot have consistently only good times. I believe that this world is much more managed and controlled than we think. We have ideas of freedom, but we're not really free. We're merely dogs running on a big farm that's so big that we don't even see the fence. And we can bark all we want, but our barks mean nothing. And, if a dog was born in the dark and they've never seen light, well, they know that they've been kept in the dark all their life, And I think that's how people are in America and in this world. We like to criticize other countries for their lack of rights, but where are we on that spectrum? We're not. We're much better in some aspects, but we're not the ideal of where we'd like to be or where we could have been or where we have been historically. We're losing these things. So anyway, we need as humans to reach our Maslow's hierarchies of needs. It's very possible to feed this entire world. It's very possible to have sustainability, but at what cost, right? We may lose a lot of our freedoms or values or ideas on how we should govern this ourselves and this world, but it's definitely obtainable. But we don't do it. And we're just a little small segment in the grand scheme of human existence. So this is actually not that big of a deal. With that being said, I think when you look at the Fed interest rates being paused, I think personally that interest rates will have to go down. And I think it's going to go down sooner than what other people expect because what's the point of pausing? What are we waiting for? Something in the economy to break? Some things, and a lot of things, already have been broken. Um, we could argue that the banking sector is one, but a lot of businesses have already been filing bankruptcy. We have a lot of people in this economy. The working class are working, two jobs. Rent is near mortgage prices, and basically, the purchasing power of each individual has just gone down way too much in America. And this isn't only because we printed money. This is just a byproduct of globalization and advancement from other countries. The United States has relied on a bunch of creditor nations and other countries' resources in order to fuel our debt-driven economy that gives us you know, a very lavish lifestyle. And it's okay that our quality of life could go up, but the stuff and things that we like, the material things, go down because our values will change. And I think that's what's going to happen. We will own less material goods, but we will have to change our values and we will become happier. I think that's what the government's planning to do. And we are probably following a more authoritarian and totalitarian type of governing, but we have such big, complex goals that we need to meet in order to sustain humanity that we probably won't really get the ideas of freedoms that we once had, because everything needs to be calculated to a T. It's like if we need to manage a population of 350 million and we need to navigate through the complexities of life in order to reach our goal, we need a strong government. And I'm not saying that I want that personally, but that's what I think's happening. We are given ideas of freedom, but that's all they are. The thought, the feeling. But we're not that free. And everything the way it is, it's all intentional. There could always be interventions. People probably wonder, why isn't the government intervening in these? Why are things allowed to be like that? You have a lot of questions. Why do people starve in this world? Why are so many bad things happening? Well, it's because the government and whoever is in charge of this world wants it to be that way. You can't have winners all the time. You cannot keep winning. It's unsustainable. It's not healthy for people and humanity. You need to understand what losing is, and you cannot always go up, because what goes up must come down. But with interest rates and the way that they are, look, odds are that the Democrats want to win re-election, okay? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. The world will always move the United States will probably move in one particular direction no matter what, no matter who's in charge. But whether we go left or right, we're still heading forward. And I believe that as a country, there's so much bureaucracy that it doesn't really matter who our president is. But with the presidential elections coming up, it would be in Joe Biden's best interest to make the economy seem better than what it is. Okay? So basically, Joe Biden and the Democrats and just the overall economy and just our government in general, doesn't matter if it's the Democrats, Republican, it doesn't matter. Okay? I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. I guess it's just, we can't point it on one particular party or one particular person. It's 350 million people in America and this entire world of 8 billion plus people. And this is just the way we're heading. So sentiment has been beaten down to an all-time low, I would say. And it's gotten better, but it's been beaten down to a very low number, and now would be a good time for Joe Biden to pump, because you want to make sure that people feel better. They want to see their portfolios go up, and it's really easy to win votes, right? Like, look, when Joe Biden and the Democrats offered free or student bailout, right? it made a lot of, he had a lot of support from that, right? Because people don't really care about others that much. They want to know what they can get for free and who's going to help them out. Okay, so it would be in Joe Biden's best interest to bolster the economy, giving a shock therapy as they did during the Obama administration. I was going over some of the old economic articles by Paul Krugman, uh, analyzing Obama's administration, along with the Fed, and yeah, it would be in Joe Biden and the Democrats, or the government's best interest to raise sentiment. So, yeah, it would be by lowering prices of rent, which, if you don't forgive student debt and you force people to pay back student loans, which is what's happening in the next month or two, that will lead to rents going down because the demand cannot afford the current prices of supply. So the supply price will have to come down. That's one way to lower down supply, the cost of supply. So rent will go down. Okay. Demand will also, the housing market will also come down, because if we lower our interest rates, or we find a new equilibrium in interest rates, but I think we're going to lower it down eventually and very soon. We kind of found that bottom. And so you will find more people, you will find more volume going on in the housing market because we found a bottom. And because we found that bottom, yeah, we will see more people making more decisions. They won't be on the sidelines waiting. They'll be like, okay, well, I would like to buy a home, or I'd like to sell a home. And based on where I think the economy is going, I think it's either a good time or a bad time to buy or sell. But there's certainty now. We have certainty. That's the main thing. So I do believe that home prices will also come down too. We had a lot of bankers and hedge funds, and basically use real estate as a form of they bought up a lot of the real estate, and just in the past a couple of years ago alone. So we will see we will see home prices come down in correlation, which, and both these things, right, help us obtain Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I do believe that the stock market will, I think, I've said in a previous video a while back that we're going to have a V-shaped recovery, and I do think that. And so far, based off just the indices, the leading indices, like the larger leading indices, that's what is going on. Because we can't have we cannot have like a lot of our securities and equities. We can't have them beaten down too much and held there for too long, because these things make up our 401k, retirement, and pensions, and that's just unsustainable as well. So by doing this, by raising the stock market, by by doing that, and by lowering housing prices to make it more affordable, whether it be to home ownership or rental, and you basically appeal to both the younger people and the older people looking to retire or eventually retire. And there could be a rug pull eventually where after Joe Biden wins, we see more interest rate rises, right? We could see that eventually, or we could see lending tighten as well, which could happen. But at a surface level, along with the media controlling the narrative and the sentiment, we could see a lot of good feels during 2024, and even starting now, right? Because the government's gonna want to keep Joe Biden in the presidency. So yeah, we could see a lot of feel good economic sentiment and through media. But eventually, we will have to go through a pullback in that. And we've already kind of been in a recession for a very long time. But you know, I think eventually all is well, because there's way too many losers in the current economy. When Because people just feel so beaten down, right? It's like when you play a game, you just keep losing and you keep losing. They're gonna let people win and win really, really hard, and then they're gonna win really hard. It's gonna come down to like a equilibrium, where it's sort of like you lose. Currently, it's like you win 1 out of 20 times in the game of economics and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But maybe now it's gonna be like, okay, maybe it's like 1 out of 5, okay, and then it's gonna be like 4 out of 5 or 3.5 or 4 out of 5 times you'll win. You'll win, and then we're gonna range from 2 to 3 out of 5 in satisfactory of life and economics, and that'll ensure that as long as we bounce between 2 and 4, but generally going to be around 2 and 3 out of 5, there's enough winners in this economy to sustain the current way society is ran and governed. As we make our transition into the new stages of of life, and whatever plan the government wants. So I did. There's a few things, I predicted the stock market crash of 2020, and I nailed it right on the head. I did. And then I do have proof of that. And then I also claimed that there would be a V-shaped recovery, and that we wouldn't see like I don't know, like people were referring to like the stock market crash in the 80s or the .com. I think we will see what we see now, which is just what I said. Um, so I do think that interest rates will be lower. I don't think that basically there's a lot of ways to reduce inflation, right? Inflation through taxation, um, increasing supply, reducing demand, but having um, the grease grooved, I guess, like having the cogs oiled in the economic machine. Um, yeah, and increasing energy, um, and there's just, I'm sorry, I'm speaking on the top of my head, and I should have written all this down, but I didn't. But my whole point is that the interest rates will eventually come down very, very soon. I don't think that these are really sustainable. I don't think we're going to have huge increases. This is probably going to be it, because it's not very sustainable. People think that the Fed will tighten through interest rates or reduce inflation through interest rates, but there's so many ways to reduce inflation. But anyway, I guess why this is difficult to articulate is because I think that maybe like in the next couple of years from now, things will get much worse. But between now and then, I think that things will get way better, because there's just so many reasons why the government needs to get it better. Again, like winning the election, um, making sure that people don't keep losing in the economic game, so we can keep sustaining society without a collapse, without a civil collapse, without social unrest. You need enough people to win. And we have too many losers currently. And um, I, I am, even if the Fed lowered interest rates, that doesn't mean that obtaining money is going to be easy, especially when it comes to the average person. It's going to be much harder to be eligible for that. The banks are tightening, And we've seen a lot of banks collapsing already, and they're fortifying. So I believe that overall, that the values of people will just have to change. The equity market will do better, and I do think that rent will go down, housing prices will come down, equity market, bond market, these things will go up in value, interest rates will go down, but obtaining easy money might be harder for the average person. Sentiment and positive narratives will be influenced or pumped in order to better promote people's happiness after being beaten down tremendously. And that'll all be to support the current governance. And then we will go back to the inevitable path of navigating through a globalized economy while trying to ensure that we keep civility, and that we are sustainable, and that we navigate through hard times, and that we successfully do so while deleveraging. So I think personally as well, large caps are generally seen as safer. And so when hedge funds, invest money, they don't want to allocate their money into speculative areas where there's a high risk. They're gonna go into safe areas, right? It's like analysis. It's like when you have an analysis, right? Analysts, right? They'll generally give all around the same price target and the same review or the same sentiment, because it's really risky. It's like if you have one particular company and everyone says, okay, all the analysts, there's like 10 analysts who say this company is going to 200, and they're all bullish, and one person says this company is going bankrupt, it's not doing well. Well, that one analyst is under a lot of stress and heat. So I think that it's easier to play it safe, and that large caps always, well, not always, but they generally lead, because that means that the markets are forward looking. So large caps and the indices will generally lead, which will eventually trickle down into med caps, medium-sized caps, because you're trying to diversify your return on investment into other opportunities. And then eventually, when risk becomes less, you're going to go into small caps, because you can't find much opportunity or value in larger med caps, right? So you go into small caps. And venture capital also rises as well in correlation. So overall, I'm bullish. I think I have a positive outlook on things. But I'm also the kind of person too who believes, like, it's not a bad idea to go buy a large piece of land and have a tilapia farm with chickens and raise your own livestock, and just be prepared, because I think that as the economy declines, values and ethics will go down in correlation. And I think that we can't really change this. We just have to be like water, as Bruce Lee says, and navigate through it. We just have to navigate through hard times, and I don't think that things will get better in terms of like materially, in a sense, like in terms of purchasing power. But I mean, at least for the United States, I think other countries like China or other creditor nations, or Vietnam, for example, those countries will definitely do better. And their assets, and I think their assets and equities will reflect that. But I think that the United States just has to come down, and other countries are going to start eating a little bit more. We've been eating a lot of the pie, and an unfair amount, okay? But we need to share this pie and stop hogging it. But the government also needs to make sure that we obtain Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it can be done through many ways. We can sedate people as well. We did that during COVID, where it's like we sedated people through politics and stimulus and entertainment, and then the government pushed a bunch of policies and things right behind people's ears. But you know, it's not like we really had the freedom to really do much anyway, unless we're gonna have like a French Revolution type protest. So, and I don't think that's really gonna happen. So overall, I am positive. I just think that we just have to be aware of these things. And so for me personally, I've been buying this dip, and I think that it's been turning out fairly well. I was very bearish on the American stocks about a year ago, and I was telling my friends about that. They thought I was crazy, but look who's right. But again, I did say it was a V-shaped recovery because things are going to be much faster than what they used to be. But I suppose that I look at things from outward in, and then we need to understand just people. But I don't really know how to articulate myself that well. I'm not a financial expert. I'm just a person with an opinion. But sometimes things can be obvious, and it's not complex as what people may think it is. It's merely we need to get this done. We need to get 1, 2, 3 ABC done, and how are we going to do it, and what's the best way. And then if you can figure that out, you'll probably do well in being able to place bets. Okay, so with that being said, I think that the Fed will lower interest rates soon and tighten money even more. But you know, we can't have also we do need cheap labor even in our own country, whether that be from foreign not foreign but immigrants, or just we set up another class of people, right? So something below lower class, like poverty class, and then like normalize poverty class, and then make something below sub poverty class. Like we might actually need to do that in order to sustain society in the way it is. And well, you know, there's a lot of creative ways to do that, right? So I think the government is gonna navigate through this entire situation just fine. Anyway, I hope you have a good day. I don't really have any political ideology or who I affiliate with too much. I don't really care. I just see things and I just give my own opinion on things, and I just try to make moves that I think are best suited to deal with how things are. Sorry, everything is just on the top of my head. So, yeah.